Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Room 442 here on Fubo TV. I'm your host, Albert Vartanian, with my co-host, my good buddy, Michael Singh. We're a little short-staffed here today.
A little far away, man.
Sarah Peraria is on vacation, living La Vida Loca in Miami. And then our fearless leader, James Sharman, feeling a little under the weather. I think he's got the plumbing, let's say, at the Sharman household is no bueno at the moment.
You had to go there.
Poor guy's having some stomach issues, man. He would love to be here. Instead, he's sitting on his couch watching us and hopefully getting ready to watch some Premier League games today, Mikey Singh. Did I go too far with that?
No, not at all. It's Sharman.
Sharman, he would appreciate it.
He would have done the same.
No. So he didn't get the sack, but there's tons of managers who did get this sack. By the way, that they call that a segue, Mikey Singh. I'm learning how to do this hosting thing here on Room 442.
Not too shabby.
Christian Stellini became the 11th manager to get sacked this season when Tottenham announced it at the beginning of the week. Look at that list. I mean, listen, through the first 11 games, Mikey, 4 managers were sacked already. This is unprecedented what's going on in the Premier League. Not many of those names have really worked out. Frank Lampard, Graham Potter, Chelsea not doing too well in terms of managers, but some have. And I would say maybe at the top of the list, you can look at Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth.
Gary O'Neill has done a really good job, but I think Unai Emery has to be the guy that's come in and taken Aston Villa to absolutely new heights. When Aston Villa, you got to remember, when Unai Emery came in for Aston Villa, they were one of the worst teams in the Premier League. And Stevie G had that side, I don't know, fumbling, right? But the talent was there. And we always said, you know, if they can come in, they can get the right guy with the talent that Aston Villa has, then they could definitely go on a run. And that's just what Unai Emery has done with this side. But yeah, shout out Gary O'Neill too. Like, Bournemouth, in my opinion, was touted for relegation, really, right at the start of the season. And now they found themselves the big win over midweek. They found themselves pretty much maybe in that safety zone where they've picked up just enough points. I think it's 36 points to potentially save themselves. And that's huge for a club like Bournemouth.
Yeah, I remember preseason we did like a prediction show and I'm like, Bournemouth bottom come Christmas and bottom at the end of the season. That's not so much the case. I mean, he's done a great job. The last 13 Bournemouth matches under Gary O'Neill have yielded 6 wins and 2 draws. And if you look at, you know, someone like Sean Dyche, who took over for Frank Lampard at Everton, that's not the case. I think just 2 wins in 13 matches. So, I mean, when you're at the bottom of the table like that, you're going to need those wins in certain positions. And Gary O'Neill's getting that for Bournemouth. But back on Emery, it's amazing what he's done with Aston Villa. 10 unbeaten since he moved there in November. No Premier League team has won more games, and only Arsenal has picked up more points. A lot of people, I guess, dismiss this disappointment of Emery because of his past at Arsenal, which is kind of unfair because he's had success in Spain, right? Not so much in the Premier League, but now with Aston Villa, he could potentially take this team to the top 4. He said it's a bit of a stretch to get there, but a Europa League finish for this team is massive because Aston Villa, let's not forget, is a massive club in England.
Yeah, and credit where credit's due, right? He's gotten them to this point where now it's crazy to think that we're talking about Aston Villa potentially. You know, I agree with him. It's probably a long shot for them to go on and crack the top 4. They have, out of every Premier League team remaining, they have the toughest schedule down the stretch, but they've taken care of some results that they needed to take care of, and that's gotten them to this point, which, like you said, if they can find a way to pick up some points here down the stretch, a Europa League spot's an amazing accomplishment for this club, considering where they were at.
Aston Villa in Europe is really good for the Premier League. I mean, level on points with Tottenham. They both played 33 games. I wouldn't get it past them to leapfrog Tottenham at the moment based on what's going on there. It's no bueno. Let's talk about maybe some managers who could be getting the sack. There was 2 guys that I had on my list from a few weeks back, and that's Jurgen Klopp and David Moyes. I don't think Klopp is going anywhere. We've talked about this a ton. Liverpool are behind him, and at this point in the season, it doesn't really make any sense. You stick with him. Maybe you buy over the summer, see how that goes, and then make that decision then. As for West Ham, David Moyes, they're kind of turning it around. But for me, I think he's at the top of the list of the next manager to potentially go.
Yeah, I think it would be in the offseason, if anything.
Yeah.
Though, right? At this point in the year, I think you're right about that. David Moyes it's been positive at times, and then at other times it's just been so dreadful. And, you know, for a club like West Ham, who you can look at Aston Villa and say they have similar ambitions. And the way that they spend fairly similarly. So the results should be somewhat similar, but they just haven't been there for Moyes. So I'm with you. Like, David Moyes is probably the manager that's on the second hottest seat in the Premier League. The hottest seat right now, which it's Frank Lampard, right, at Chelsea.
Oh my
Like
goodness,
that's not even a. I don't even know if you can attribute a hot seat to him, because I think it's written in stone that he's going to be on his way out of the club. He's just kind of taking over for Graham Potter and Chelsea until the end of the season, until they find their next manager.
I feel like it's just one bad decision after the other for Chelsea. I mean, appointing Frank Lampard as a stopgap until you hire someone that you actually want. It sounds like Mauricio Pochettino is close to landing at Chelsea, where, you know, the Spurs fan in me is like, what are you doing? Please don't go there. Don't go to Chelsea. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. In terms of managers that were appointed before the season, if you were to rank them in terms of the best, I'm probably going to go with Erik ten Hag, right? For Manchester United.
Yeah,
I can't find anyone else on that list that even
comes
close to that.
Appointed prior to the season, yeah, I think Erik ten Hag is probably that. Given what he's done at Manchester United, where, you know, I know they've wobbled in form lately, and obviously when you lose your 2 starting center backs, that's likely going to be the case. But he's refound life back at that club, and he had such a monstrous task. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about the Cristiano Ronaldo debacle with Erik ten Hag. It wasn't that long ago, but yet he's managed to you know, steer the ship through the turbulence, and yeah, hopefully, you know, that's a sign of things to come. I know he wasn't appointed before the season, but Eddie Howe as well.
Yeah,
got to give him a special shout out there, because he's just done a remarkable job with Newcastle.
So if you're going manager of the year right now, if Arsenal wins the title, I think it might have to be Arteta.
Yeah.
But if they don't win the title, is he still the top guy for that job? 20 seconds.
I think Eddie Howe, if Newcastle can finish in the top 4, which it looks like they're doing, I think Eddie Howe is manager of the year.
I like that as well. Okay, coming up after the break, we're going to talk about the title race between Arsenal and Manchester City, who handed them a pretty good beating the other day. Stay tuned for that.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Oh, happy days for Manchester City. Look at that. Just 2 points behind Arsenal with 2 games in hand. You can say what you want. A lot of people have already crowned Manchester City as the champions after that game. But one guy who hasn't done that is Pep Guardiola. Here he is.
Our destiny is in our hands. So today winning Arsenal will be in their hands, and now it's in our hands. And when you arrive at the end of the season, when whatever happened, it doesn't matter. It's our performance. To win the games, it depends on us. This is the best way to approach the last 6, 7 games.
Mikey, you agree with Pep there that the destiny is in Manchester City's hands at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely, right? They have the upper hand there on Arsenal. It was such a massive victory for this club. We talk about it all the time. When is Manchester City going to click? When are they finally going to round into form? Well, guess what? They're doing it in the Champions League, and now they've decided to do it in the Premier League, which I think is just, it's so commendable, because we were talking about this club not that long ago about, you know, what's wrong with Manchester City? What's going on there? Why can't they refine their form? But yet here Pep Guardiola is talking at the end of the season, and he's telling fans that it's in our destiny, which I think it absolutely is. When you look at the schedule for Manchester City, the rest of the way, they have Fulham away. That's going to be a tougher game than I think a lot of people are.
Not the same Fulham, right, as we saw early on in the season.
Yeah, Fulham that's wavered, but still, going to Craven Cottage, it's never easy. And then you have West Ham at home, Leeds. You're looking at Everton and Chelsea, Brighton and Brentford. So I think with 2 games in hand, it absolutely is going to be up to them, and we'll see what happens.
And dude, it makes things easier when you have Erling Haaland, 33 Premier League goals. He had 2 assists and a goal that night, 49 goals in 42 games as a Manchester City player. I mean, there's always so much talk, and I hate to do this, but of the best player in the world. We saw what Mbappe did at the World Cup, and people kind of crowned him that, obviously, Lionel Messi. But Erling Haaland has been so consistent throughout the entire season. He had a few gaps in games where he didn't score goals, but now when it's money-making time, he's starting to deliver, and we saw a different side of him, I felt, in that game. His hold-up play, which I haven't really seen under Pep Guardiola, was fantastic. He's adjusted his role for this Manchester City team, and Manchester City in general, Pep Guardiola has adjusted his side to work with him. So I think finally, after all this time, it's starting to gel, and for them, it's the right time.
Yeah, part of that conversation we were having was like, yes, Erling Haaland's a really good player, but is this still the same Manchester City? Can they play Manchester City type of football with Erling Haaland into the side? And guess what? They've figured it out, and they're absolutely in form. And, circling back to Erling Haaland, you're right. Such a good time for him to go on and break Mo Salah's record for the amount of goals in a 38-game Premier League season against Arsenal, their biggest game of the season. I think that's really fitting because Erling Haaland has shown up in every, not I want to say just big moments, he's shown up in every moment for Manchester City this season. And I don't think it's a stretch to include him in the best players in the world conversation right now, because we've never seen a striker quite like Erling Haaland. You mentioned his touch, his control under pressure. The first goal when he brought it down with Rob Holding essentially bear hugging him, he gets stereotyped almost because he's so big and because he's so quick. People are like, oh, that's all he can do. He can just poach goals. But no, there's so much more to his game. And you saw that on display in that first goal, that first touch to bring it down, the awareness to see Kevin De Bruyne, and the layoff too as well. Erling Haaland he's a machine. What else can we say?
That's it. He lets his hair down. He can score some goals. And Kevin De Bruyne. We could talk about Kevin De Bruyne all day, but he's been fantastic. For Arsenal, in terms of form, it's been bad. In the last 3 draws and a loss. As Mikel Arteta said recently, it's time for Arsenal to bounce back.
I don't know what is going to be required. For sure, what we have to do first, lift the players up because they suffered tonight, and it was a difficult one to swallow, and lift them up tomorrow and get doing everything that we've done so far so well in the next match to earn the right to win it. That's where we have to start right
now. It was telling that you can see the inexperience in Arsenal in that match, right? It's hard to just dismiss this season if they don't win the Premier League, because he also said in that same press conference, he's like, listen, people were saying we're going to finish 6th or 7th in the Premier League this season, and here we are. They deserve a lot of credit. I know it was difficult for them against Manchester City, the champions, away in a massive matchup, but what they've done this season is incredible.
Yeah, it's an old cliche in football, right? Where if this was the tables were turned and Arsenal started a little bit slowly out of the gate and then rounded into form as the season went on, sure, they finished 2nd. People will be looking at this season like it is one of the best seasons in recent memory for Arsenal. They still will. But it does leave that little bit sour taste in your mouth because they started off so well. They've led for everyone except for, I think, 3 or 4 match days this season. They've been on top of the Premier League table. So the fact that it's looking like they'll likely not be Premier League champions at the end of the season, it has to, again, leave a sour taste in Arteta's mouth and the club's mouth, especially with the way that we all saw the way it played out last season. Right?
Arteta also said there's still 5 games to play. In almost 22 years in this country, I've seen a lot of things. Essentially has to run the table for them to have a chance. Yeah. Can they do that?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
It's a difficult schedule coming up.
Right, I think right away you're going away to Newcastle. Away to Newcastle is one of the toughest fixtures in not just the Premier League. I think all of football right now with the way that Eddie Howe has his side clicking at home. That's not going to be easy. Like you said, one of the toughest schedules down the stretch for Arsenal here. We'll see exactly how it plays out, but home at Chelsea to start. Okay.
Yeah, that's on Tuesday.
That's not too bad. And then Brighton, Forest, and Wolves. So the last 3, okay, potentially. Brighton will be a little bit tough, but away to Newcastle is the one I circle and be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how many points they actually get from any of those games. But the big thing, and I keep mentioning it, Mikey, it's William Saliba. And I'm looking at his win rate when he's with the team, 77% compared to 33% when he's not there. Goals conceded is a big number. From less than a goal per game to 2.17. Listen, you can say whatever you want about Gabriel, but the main guy in that partnership is clearly William Saliba. Rob Holding, he's a squad guy. He's a squad depth player. There's no way that you can win a Premier League as Rob Holding is one of your main center backs. And that's not a dig at him. It's just he's not up to the quality of William Saliba. And that's crazy saying that considering this is really his first season in the Premier League at, 21 years old?
Yeah, he's emerged as a definite candidate to be the best center back in the Premier League.
Oh, definitely,
There's some other really good ones there, but Saliba's at 21 years old has to be considered right up there. And that was such a point of question heading into the start of this season, exactly what Arsenal will get out of their centre backs. How well will they be at preventing goals?
Mm-hmm.
And Saliba stepped up and emerged as, like I said, just one of the best centre backs in the league. And the hope is he can build on this season moving forward, and Arsenal likely have a gem here.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 6 matches, they conceded 13 goals, but the goals don't go away, right? 16 goals for over that time, which puts them in the top 3 behind Manchester City and Newcastle. So they have, I feel like this is a team that has everything, but they're missing just a few pieces in terms of depth and on the squad. I think come this summer, you add the right pieces, which they have done. I thought they did a pretty good job in January, bringing in Jorginho and Trossard. I thought that was really good, but I think defensively is where they need to enforce. And once they do that, I really believe that they can actually win this Premier League. They have the keeper. They have Saliba. They have Gabriel. Those two are very good together. The fullbacks are there. The goal scorers are there. Everyone's very young. I think moving forward, even if they don't win this Premier League season, they'll be a threat for the next 3 to 4 years.
That's the point of debate, I think, with this Arsenal team. We see it all the time. Like, we see clubs have good years. What's next? Can they take that next step? What's going to happen with the teams around them? Was Chelsea going to be back? Is Liverpool going to be back? Is Manchester United be back? I think part of the reason why this stings a little bit more for Arsenal fans is because this Premier League season in particular, perhaps more so than any other in recent memory, it was in the balance because you had so many of these clubs that just were not living up to expectation. And you can include Manchester City in that mix for a good portion of this season. It was right there for the taking, and maybe because of that, it'll sting a little bit more. But you're right. They're one of the youngest teams in the Premier League, if not the youngest. The future, you have to look at it from the outside looking in. It's bright.
A lot of down years for a lot of teams. You know, Spurs not having a great season. Chelsea clearly not. Chelsea just 10 points outside of the relegation zone. They're not going to get relegated, but I mean, that's trouble for Chelsea. Okay, coming up after the break, we're going to look at some of the Premier League matches this week, and a big one, by the way, Manchester United against Aston Villa, and Mikey might be going somewhere you don't think he probably would.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
United, and it's very difficult, only with 5 matches left to finish the season. For us, it's more difficult to get then. And if we can win 5 matches, I think it's not enough to get Champions League position doing it as well. And I think now our really possibility is to try to play Europa League or Conference, but we have to face very difficult matches against Liverpool, against Brighton, against Tottenham, Sunday against Manchester United. But it's not our target to get Manchester United, because I think it's being impossible. Only we can add points for us, winning then, but thinking for us, not thinking the possibility to reduce with Manchester United our difference.
All right, welcome back to Room 442. That was Unai Emery, the manager for Aston Villa, talking ahead of a massive fixture against Manchester United at Old Trafford. And I will say this, no team in the Europa League will want to see Unai Emery. You want to talk about the Europa League king? It's Unai Emery. Mikey, this should be a very interesting game. Listen, he basically said even if we win out, we're probably not going to get into the top 4. With that said, if they do want a shot at doing that, it starts with a win at Old Trafford. Easier said than done, but Manchester United pretty weak heading into this fixture.
Yeah, the big concern for Manchester United, as I mentioned earlier on the show, is just the loss of their 2 center backs, right? Lissandro Martinez and Rafael Varane, they make up the shell of that team. And when you don't have those guys in the side, you're looking at Luke Shaw slotting in at central defense, who, yeah, I got to give him credit. He's done a pretty good job at slotting in there, but he's not Rafael Varane or Lissandro Martinez. You lose that extra bit of umph that they had early on this season, and since then it's wavered a little bit. So yeah, Manchester United at home, you do probably like their chances, but that being said, you're facing a Villa team that, as Unai Emery says, just coming in here super confident.
What did you make of United's 2-2 draw against Spurs?
Yeah, a good start to the game. They're facing a really vulnerable side in Spurs, where you like to go there and you like to think that 3 points should have been a absolute,
I think so,
given,
yeah.
Right? But it wasn't the case. They took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. I think Ten Hag made some mistakes in their substitutions, particularly taking out Christian Eriksen fairly early in that match when he was balling out and having one of the best games I've seen Christian Eriksen have in a Manchester United shirt in quite some time. So that just goes back to kind of what I was saying. The depth on this team right now, it's just not quite where it was, and that's what happens when you lose your 2 starting center backs. So yeah, I think their form is wavering a little bit here down the stretch.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, Varane, Martinez, as you mentioned, Donny van de Beek, Garnacho, Tom Heaton, who I know hasn't really been in the picture, but the backup keeper who's out, Scott McTominay, Phil Jones, hasn't been there for quite a while, but also Harry Maguire. So you're looking at Luke Shaw and potentially Lindelof going up against Ollie Watkins, who might be, I mean, outside of Erling Haaland, the hottest striker in the Premier League at the moment based on his goal-scoring record.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be right up there. And, Emery has done a really good job of, really including him as the focal point of this team. I think in the offseason, a lot of people were expecting Philippe Coutinho to really be the focal point of this team moving forward, at least in attack, but he hasn't even been able to sniff the side. And Ollie Watkins has emerged as a real bright spot. I think him, even Callum Wilson's got back into the picture with Newcastle. He got on the board. Obviously, Isak, I don't know if you'd classify him as a natural striker.
Did you see that assist?
Best assist of the
season.
season.
My goodness, dude. I wish we could just rip that thing on loop right now. That was unbelievable.
What a run.
We talked about him earlier in the, maybe a couple weeks ago, if Isak is going to become, I think you posed the question, one of the best strikers or whatever the case may be. And after seeing his performance in that game and prior performances, it's hard not to say that he won't become a top guy.
No, he's a legitimate star, and I think that he'll turn into a superstar, take that next jump over these next couple of years. I think it just takes reps, takes longevity, but the skill you saw on full display during that run, one of the best runs I've seen in such a long time. It was so clean. But that's why I say, when you compare Watkins, what he's doing, there's other guys who are making some pretty big noise, but Watkins is right up there with them.
Yeah, Ollie Watkins, 7 goals in his last 10 games. And just one thing on Harry Maguire, he was injured in training, did not feature against Spurs, so maybe expect him not to be in the lineup. Who do you have here winning this game?
So my bet, and I'm not sure if they're actually going to win the game, but I saw them at this number, and I'm like, there's no way you can pass them up. So I'm taking Aston Villa right now. I think they're about plus 330 on the money line straight up to win this game. And
I like it.
Unbeaten in their last 10 games. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They're almost just as good away than they are at home. Manchester United without their 2 key pieces in central defense. I think there's some value there on Villa. It might not happen, but that number is way too big to pass up.
Yeah, I like it. Another big fixture going down on Sunday is Liverpool at home at Anfield against struggling Spurs. Just 1 point separating the two. And if you go back a few weeks, this wasn't even a question. I think you posed the question to me off air if I thought that Liverpool would surpass Tottenham. And I'm like, no, it can't be, right? Tottenham. I think this is when they had Conte. I'm like, Tottenham's been pretty well. And Liverpool, just not the case. But at the moment, there's a serious chance that could happen. Spurs do not have a good record at Anfield. But with that said, here is Ryan Mason, Spurs interim manager, ahead of the big match on Sunday.
Yeah, listen, we focus on ourselves. We feel confident that whenever we have the ball against any opposition, we can hurt them because we've got quality players. But at the same time, we have to respect who we're coming up against and be a team, be humble together and work hard for each other and hopefully get a positive result.
I'm just looking at Tottenham's remaining fixtures here. They have Liverpool away. They have a horrible record there. So I'm not, if you're Spurs, you're not really expecting much there. Then they have Crystal Palace at home. That's a London derby. They're playing better under Roy Hodgson. Going to be a difficult game. Then they have Villa away at Villa Park. We were just talking about how good they've been under Unai Emery. Can't expect too much from Spurs there. Then Brentford at home. And you can say what you want about Brentford, one of the best home teams in the Premier League, and they can play well against Spurs. And then Leeds United to end the season away, and Leeds in that game could be fighting for their lives to stay in the Premier League. It's not looking good for Tottenham right now, but I will say there were some positives you can pull from that match against Manchester United. My biggest one being it looked like the team were actually playing for Ryan Mason. And before him was Christian Stellini, who was brought in there after Antonio Conte. And it looked like that wasn't the case. And he was there for 4 games. It didn't go well. And I'm just thinking, what if they put Ryan Mason in charge, who was ready for the job, as you mentioned, instead of Stellini? Where would Tottenham be on this table right now? Because it seems like this is the guy that they wanted, even though it's the interim, but they didn't want Stellini. The fans didn't want Stellini. Everybody wanted Mason, and you can see that at least the players want to play for him.
Yeah, but Stellini, they played really well under him when he did take over the first time because Conte was unavailable due to his health.
But
issue,
the thing is, you knew Conte was coming back, right?
Yeah.
So you knew you still had the ace in the hole, if you will.
Yeah. So I don't mind that decision as much. I think it was important that they did replace him though. And you mentioned the players wanted to play under Ryan Mason. You go down after what happened at Newcastle. You go to at home at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and you face a Manchester United team and they score 9 minutes into that match, right? Then you have a chance, but it doesn't go in, and then Manchester United double their lead before halftime. The stadium was silent. You could feel Tottenham in a way crumbling, but yet I don't know what was said in that dressing room at halftime, but the players came out of the halftime. They came out wanting to play. They came out not rolling over. It would have been so easy for them to fold, but they did not do that. And I have to give them a tremendous amount of credit because they came out fighting for that club. And that is what I take away from that game. It's just how important it was for them to battle back and see out that result and get a draw.
Yeah, Spurs have missed that, and they're going to need that moving forward. Liverpool up next. Liverpool in their last 4, 3 wins on the spin, undefeated. Here's Jurgen Klopp talking about his team's consistency.
It's for me too early to speak about consistency. For me, winning 3 games is not consistent. It's good, but it can only be the start of something. And it's about consistency you show in performances, even more than in results. And out for the outside world, it's the result. But for us, obviously, it must be the performance because that's what we work with. And I'm happy with that in the moment because in all the games, as different as they were, I saw a lot of things we want to see in the games.
Spurs haven't won at Anfield since 2011. They have a lot of work to do. Before I get into my bet, how do you think this match plays out?
Yeah, I like Liverpool in this one.
Bet you do.
And it's not just because of what Spurs is doing. It's more so to what Liverpool is doing. Liverpool's about to embark on a 3-game home stretch here at Anfield. And I think it's really important that they continue their terrific form at home. 2.27 points per game when playing at Anfield this season. So they've gone through the toughest part of their schedule. If you look at the remaining schedules here, they actually have the easiest schedule. So Tottenham at home, yeah, that's probably their toughest game, but they're home to Fulham, home to Brentford, away to Leicester, home to Villa, who's in good form, and then away to Southampton. Hear me out. Liverpool could make a dark horse push here for a top 4 spot. I kid you not.
Yeah, I see them finishing above Spurs based on the way that they're playing right now. That little run they have at home, all favorable fixtures. I really believe they can win all those games. My bet for this game, though, is I'm going with Son Heung-min, anytime goal scorer. I know he hasn't been the best this season, but plus 400. The reason being Spurs seem to attack so much better when teams are attacking them, and Son will use that pace to go up against Liverpool. Plus 400. Not bad, right?
Yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, too.
Yeah, who's been good. Obviously, offensively, that's his game, but defensively, he can get exposed.
There's space behind there for Son. I like that.
But we're definitely unanimous in thinking that Liverpool are going to win this game. I think if you pose the question to 100 Tottenham fans, 99 would say Liverpool are probably going to win. I have to give them credit. Listen, I mean, they've been really good recently, Liverpool.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the way that they started the season, you would never think they'd be in this position.
When was the last time you thought Tottenham was going to win a game, though?
Honestly, maybe Bournemouth, but that was a stretch, and they end up losing that game. Team drives me crazy. Anyway, I hope they figure it out. I hope Ryan Mason figures it out. Harry Kane, by the way, did hear the chants from Manchester United fans saying, "You'll be here in June." And he dismissed it. He's like,
go.
I'm just worried about this team. No, you're not. Don't lie.
Okay,
him. Coming up after the break, it's Mikey's favorite game show. It's not bad. Red card, yellow card, play on. Stay tuned.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back into room 442, and it's time for what everybody's been waiting for. It's the people's segment. It's red card, yellow card, play on. Albert Vartanian, let's dive right in.
All right.
VAR. You know, it's been a couple years since we've gotten used to the new video review system. I'm saying VAR has made the game better.
Oh, That's a yellow. I'm going to go with the yellow. It has and it hasn't. It has in terms of it's made some correct decisions and decisions that maybe would have gone unnoticed in the past. It's corrected those. But on the other side, the pinky toes that are offside, the pinky fingers that are offside, I don't like those types of decisions, the whole handball situation. Also, it's taken away from celebrating a goal.
Yeah.
Because once that goal goes in, and let's say it's on a set piece with a high line, you're just waiting for it to get called back. They got to check VAR. Is this thing offside? Is it not offside? So it subdues the celebrations. That's one thing I don't like about VAR. But when it's on your side and it helps the team that you support, it's fantastic. But that's why I'm on the fence with it. I still think it needs a lot of tweaking, honestly.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, if it goes your way, VAR is the best thing in the world. When it doesn't, it sucks. Why is it even here? But if you had to say VAR stays or VAR goes, if you had the magic power to make that decision, what are you saying?
That's such a tough one, man. I might say go.
Go!
I might say it has to go from a football fan perspective, because I don't want my celebration for a goal to be subdued. I want to celebrate once the ball crosses the line, it goes in. I'm celebrating.
Think about it this way: you get to celebrate twice.
But the second time is not the same. You can even see it with players. Yeah. I think now as fans we're getting so used to it that we're just kind of accepting it. So it's going to stay. I think it really needs some tweaks. I mean, certain things, like, you know what I'm talking about with with the toe of the shoe.
Yeah.
Offside.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Is
that really giving that player that much of an advantage? It's not.
They've given some leeway in terms of the margin of exactly how much they're looking for, but there's still plays that you see all the time where it's just a toe or a fraction.
And the problem too, it's different from league to league. La Liga, the Serie A, and Premier League, they interpret things in a different way.
Same with
I think
MLS.
I think it needs to be uniform across the board.
Shout out MLS, by the way.
Shout out MLS.
Shout out MLS. And it also, like, just last thought on this, what's the point of linesman then?
At this point, it's true.
Right? A linesman raises his flag, doesn't matter. Doesn't raise his flag, it doesn't really matter. And right?
I mean, there's the whole injury thing, right? I know that the lay offside flag drives me insane.
Yeah.
But that's probably one of the reasons why they're there. Imagine you just let them play on. Yeah, just play on until you score a goal or something happens, and then we'll review it.
Yeah.
Or what if it's a nothing play? That guy's offside by 5 or 6 yards, and then he gets challenged by a big guy like Virgil van Dijk, and he breaks his leg. And it's like, well, maybe we need the linesman there to raise a flag.
Yeah, and there's a situation on Toronto FC a couple years ago where Ralph Priso ended his season because the linesman decided not to put his flag up right away on a pretty obvious call. So there are still kinks to work out, as you pointed out. Sure. But man, shout out VAR. I like VAR. Mo Salah, he broke a record not too long ago, becoming the Premier League player with the most left-footed goals.
Mm-hmm.
He's made an absolute weapon out of that left foot. But I was thinking about, some of the best left-footed players. And I'm saying, aside from Messi, obviously, aside from Maradona, obviously, the most iconic left-footed player is Ryan Giggs. You got to think of some left-footed players that come to mind.
I want to go red card. I'm just blanking on names right now.
Tell me Ryan Giggs wouldn't be the first left-footed player.
Okay, in the Premier League, yes, I would say for sure, probably in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But Johan Cruyff, I think, was left-footed. I mean, think about someone who revolutionized the game, total football, the Cruyff turn.
Was he left-footed though? Can we confirm that?
Yeah, you got to confirm that. Gareth, I'm pretty sure he was. Gareth Bale, multiple-time Champions League winner.
Is Gareth Bale more iconic than Ryan Giggs?
I don't know if he's more iconic, but I'm just, in terms of champions, he's won a lot of Champions League with Real
throw
Madrid.
Some other names.
How about Raul from Real Madrid?
Raul,
right? These are legends, but I think I might have to throw Cruyff above Ryan Giggs. So I'm gonna go red card on that. Hey, Iron Robin, the cut and
Iron
king.
Robin, of course.
Yes, Iron Robin. He's got to be in there too. But I would say Premier League, I think I have to give that crown to Ryan Giggs.
Yeah, Cruyff is apparently very two-footed.
Okay. He probably doesn't even know. He's like, it was money than belly. He's like, I don't
know. Shout out Roberto Carlos.
Yes.
Another iconic left foot. Yes. Everyone thinks about that free kick that Roberto Carlos had outside of the foot, curving around.
You know what, Mikey? I feel like I'm kind of biased here because I didn't really see the glory years of Ryan Giggs play.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, and even later in his career, he was still fantastic.
Yeah.
But based on what he's won, the team that he was with, I mean, didn't win much internationally. Wales, not very good at that time. But within the Premier League, I think he might have to be up there for sure.
I think if anyone's biased, it's probably me.
Who else? Like left-footed
Paolo
players.
Maldini.
Okay.
One, but I don't know if he was necessarily known for his left foot in
Right.
particular, but he was a left-footed.
Yeah, he's known for his defending.
Really good player.
If you're thinking goal scoring, yeah, you have to think of guys who put the ball in the back, and
Yeah.
Van Persie's got to be in there somewhere. I think
Van
too.
Persie, definitely. That's a good shout. David Silva.
Wow, the magician.
David Silva.
Eric
Mesut
Lamela,
Ozil.
right? Mesut Ozil.
Eric Lamela. You just
That
tried
was
to
a joke.
slide that one in there.
I love Eric Lamela.
Johan Cruyff was left-footed, by the way. I have confirmed that. But yeah, some really good left-footed players there. Mo Salah has to be up there with some
Yeah,
of the
I think
best.
Mo Salah might go down as like, one of the greatest Premier League players, and that's crazy to say, but he's been that good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he's shout out Bob Bradley, who managed Mo Salah for Egypt, actually. And apparently, what I've
Bob
heard,
Bradley managed Egypt?
yeah, oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a little stint there, and Mo Salah was one of players he still connects with, still talks to, and apparently, the story is that Bob Bradley helped Mo Salah move from, I believe, the left side to the right side, and now Mo Salah cuts in from that all the time. So he was one
Wow.
of the guys who helped Mo Salah in that. So just fun fact for those.
So hold
out
on,
there
whoa.
watching.
So we get any connection here to Toronto FC? Is Mo Salah
Mo
gonna
Salah at TFC one day?
make an MLS appearance?
Oh, put that in the universe.
That's
Will
it.
in
I
the
didn't know that.
universe.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Bob
Yeah.
Bradley getting around.
This one hits close to home for you,
All right.
so I had to get this one in there. Dele Alli.
Oh,
He can still be an impactful Premier League player. Might not still be the same player that he once was,
right.
or as touted to be, but he could still be I think like a squad player, a starter in the Premier League. What do you say?
Man, if there's anyone that loves this guy, it's me. But I'm going to go with a red card. I'm not 100% sure if this is confirmed or not, but I'm pretty sure his contract with Besiktas has been terminated. As for his time at Everton, I know he's still on the books there. I don't think that's going to happen. We obviously saw what came out, that image of him sniffing balloons or something, some sort of, I don't know what that stuff is. But he's caught up in a bad way, honestly. And he hasn't played good football since, I don't know, 2017, 2018. We saw that all or nothing with Tottenham and Mourinho talking to him and saying, don't waste your time, essentially. You're going to regret it. And it looks like that's what's happening for whatever reason. I don't know why. This guy was, at his peak with Spurs, was one of the best young midfielders in the world. He was being talked about as he can become a Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard. And he is absolutely nowhere near that. He goes to Everton. He can't even make the team. And then he gets loaned out to Besiktas. He starts for a little bit, and then the manager's like, I don't even want him here anymore. So if you're not wanted at Everton, if you're not wanted in Turkey, there's no chance you're making an impact in the Premier League.
I think injury also played into the end of his time there at Besiktas.
Yeah.
I think he's going through an injury right now, and Sean Dyche was saying that he has to, kind of similar to what Mourinho was saying, he has to take advantage of this opportunity, your recovery time, and do all the right things while you're recovering. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not Everton will bring Dele Alli back, but I agree with you. Probably they don't. It sounds like they just don't want him. Besiktas is apparently still on the table, so he could potentially go back there. But I think, what is he now? 27 years old, I think.
And already in Turkey. Like, that's no disrespect to Turkey, but this is a guy who was...
This sounds like it's disrespect to Turkey.
No, dude, he was on the English team. He was in the starting 11.
Starter for the English national team.
He was on the Tottenham team that was in the Champions League. He was on the Spurs team
not just on the team,
fought
though.
for the Premier League.
Not just on the team.
Starter, an integral part.
Not just a starter, too. Like, he was like a star.
I know. This is what I'm saying. I don't know if... I would love for him to turn things around. I just don't see it happening. Sean Dyche spoke about him a little bit, saying, he goes, I don't know Dele Alli. He goes, I haven't seen him train. So you couldn't really answer it. But essentially saying, listen, I don't know much about this guy, but based on what I'm seeing, I don't know if he's up to snuff for the Premier League, which is very unfortunate.
It seems like it's a
lot of off-field,
thing.
Going on with him, too.
Exactly. It seems like it's more of a mental thing than anything else. It's sad. It's one of the more surprising stories when you hear that Dele Alli is still only 27 years old. That opens your eyes for sure. Now, next I want to go to is, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, and I'm a huge advocate for this. I'm saying all leagues should adopt old school MLS penalties. If you don't know what that is, Ellie, bring it up the screen there. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. So you essentially go in and you're on a breakaway.
Yeah. So okay, what are the rules there exactly? I've seen that clip a million times. I don't know the rules.
So all I know and all I can tell you, and it's all I really care
Looks
about.
like he starts at almost half.
Yeah, so you start like at half, the referee blows the whistle, and you have a certain amount of time to get your shot off.
Right.
You can't take too long. So, some people can't go too wide to round the keeper. It's got to keep it short, compact. But think about the way that would revolutionize penalty. I say revolutionize because, it's already happened. But re-revolutionize penalties in world football. What do you say? Bring that back?
I'm going to have to hit you with a red card.
No!
Man. That's a little too,
you don't like
that's
fun.
a little too XFL for me. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. It's fun. But I'm like a traditionalist, I guess, or a purist. People don't like, I don't mind penalties. I don't mind penalty shootouts. It's not the greatest way to end a game, but it's been like that forever. I don't mind keeping it that way. And it looks like in that video, there's a large area for injury. There's a large chance of getting an injury. Look at how the keeper's coming out diving the player. It's just, I don't know.
Injury.
Yes, there's injury involved.
That's your concern.
The penalty, the ball's on the spot. The keeper's there. The player's here. Bing, bang, boom. I'm going to go with keep it the way it is.
You hate fun.
No, I love fun.
That's the one thing.
You want to see, I don't know, Erling Haaland go 100 miles an hour at Allison?
I would love to see that. Yeah.
Think about that now. That sounds kind of cool. No. But maybe in an All-Star game. Keep it to All-Star game. When Todd Bowley gets his Premier League All-Star game, then you can put that in there.
Maybe they should just adopt that back into Major League Soccer and start there and every
You
other
think
league
they would? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's done, right?
I think it's done.
That's too gimmicky.
I hate it. I want it back. All
right.
Chelsea will be better than Tottenham next season.
Chelsea will be better than Tottenham next season? Play on.
Play on.
As of right now, if they do get their man Mauricio Pochettino, if they don't get him, they're getting another good manager. Let's say it's Luis Enrique. I know he's out of the running, but they'll get a better manager. Their squad is definitely better. They got to shed some weight there, but they have world-class players all over the pitch. As for Spurs, they don't have a manager. They don't know who that's going to be. Probably not getting Harry Kane back. Looks like Hugo Lloris has played his last game. There's a lot of reconstruction that needs to be done to that team, and they need a manager first. I'm going to go with Chelsea being better. They're so much better than the record says at the moment.
That's insane because we were just talking about them being 10 points out of relegation, and yet here
Well,
we are.
Todd Bowley does make some bad decisions. Why rehire Frank Lampard? But it looks like he's going after, I want to say proven winner, but someone who's proven in the Premier League in Poch, and I think that's good for that squad.
And they have, talent-wise, I would think Chelsea's talent
deep,
is
man.
so much better.
No
than
João
Felix.
Felix. I don't think they're going to re-up on him, but you never know.
That's a good question.
Yeah. That's a guy you want to keep, I think.
I would say so, right? If you're Chelsea and João Felix is coming in at, I don't know what the exact fee would be. Let's say 50 million is the fee for João Felix.
Right.
You wouldn't pull that trigger?
Chelsea can do it. We just paid 10 or 12 million for a loan fee. So now it's like 62, 63. I think so, but priority definitely is striker. If you can bring in a striker to play with him, I think you got to keep him.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? He can't be that natural.
Give him another season in the Premier League too. It's a no-brainer, I think.
I've liked what I've seen out of him too. Right?
Yeah.
I think you're right. If they bring in that striker, then absolutely they can get the best out of him. It's tough to rely on him as solely their number 9. I think we've learned that over the course of this stretch that he may not be the solution at 9, but I think he's still a hell of a player.
Yeah, I do too. Mikey, that was a very enjoyable red card, yellow card play on. I really enjoyed that. Okay, coming up after the break, me and Mikey will wrap up the show and give you our rest of the bets for this weekend's matches in the Premier League.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
All right, welcome back to Room 442. Time to wrap up the show, but we got some bets for you. Producer Ellie, can you please throw them on the screen? There you go. We got some, I was going to say producer Sharman, our main man Sharman, who does produce the show. I will say that. He threw in some bets here. He's got Crystal Palace beating West Ham beating Crystal Palace, plus 200. He likes Everton on the double chance, minus 118 against Leicester, and Bournemouth to win and over 2.5 total goals against Leeds. Mikey Singh, you like Brentford against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, Brentford, that's not surprising, right? Not that eye-opening. Brentford at home.
Forest is one of those tricky teams, I know. But I'm with you.
Away from the city ground, Forest is not.
Yeah, horrible away team.
Yeah, not that great. And they don't score a lot of goals. That's why I took the under 2.5 total. And look at that number, plus 270 if you combine Brentford and under 2.5 goals. I know Brentford's decent at scoring, but I just don't see any Nottingham Forest goals coming out of this one. So I like that.
I can see a 2-0 there. Maybe an Ivan Toney penalty, maybe 2 goals for him. Fulham against Manchester City. Mikey, Fulham double chance plus 300.
That's the one, man. That's the one. So Manchester City's minus 1,000 in this game, and for good reason, right? I don't know. I think that number might be slightly too big, but obviously Manchester City away though is still going to be the favorite, but Fulham are tied. Fulham double chance, like at plus 300. Again, I'm going value there. I know it probably won't happen, but if it does, plus 300 is not a bad number.
That's a huge matchup. I think it's a tight one too. I see like a 1-0 Man City. But listen, if they can, if João Paulinho and the rest of Fulham can hold it down defensively, they can pull off a draw. Plus 300 is a nice number. I like Newcastle. Anytime Newcastle is at home, I'm riding with Newcastle. I don't care who they're playing. And this time it's Southampton who, man, they were kind of embarrassed by Bournemouth in that matchup. They should not have lost that game, but they did. And now they're going to go Newcastle and lose another one. I was trying to find value here because the money line was just too short. So I went -1.5. So Newcastle has to win by 2 at -105. And once again, remember, these bets are courtesy. These odds, excuse me, are courtesy of North Star Bets. I also went Wolves +1. Producer Ellie's favorite team, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I'm going +1 at +110. All they need to do is not lose by 2 goals, and you win your bet. So there you go. Hopefully we win some cash this weekend, Mikey. Hopefully you guys win some cash as well.
There you go. Brian wavered a little bit too. You know?
I know. I think they're kind of on the beach a little bit.
I don't know.
Right? But they shouldn't be.
They
Finish
shouldn't
in a European spot. Happy days.
Shout out Lopetegui too. We didn't give him a shout out at
True.
the top of the show, and as one of the managers that have come in and done a pretty decent job, Lopetegui's up there for sure.
Yeah, he can become the one of the first managers to bring a team that was bottom at Christmas to saving them in the Premier League. Hasn't been done, I think, just 4 times. So shout out Julian Lopetegui. All right, that's it for the end of the show. Enjoy today's Premier League matches. We'll be back on Saturday.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.